All right, guys, I'm back. We're doing another body. I'm not sure if I'm going to put both these videos up yet or not, but we're going to try and see if we can get this one all in one take. We had some interruptions with the last video, partly because I ran out of fuel, so I have an extra can of fuel here ready to go. And just to show you real quick before we get started, this is what we ended up with on the last body. You can see that's real pretty. You know, it's not perfectly even, but I wasn't going for anything perfect. I can always kind of smooth that out with some light sanding. Or I may just leave it that way, you know, for drama. But minimal cracking. Anytime I went over any part of this, I could touch my hand to it, and it wasn't any warmer than your stovetop gets when you have the oven on. Your stovetop is off, but your oven surface gets hot from the oven being on. And so you don't want to get it heated up too much, or you'll have those cracks will be worse. See, here they almost look just kind of rustic. It's got that Firecaster vibe, but there's no distortion in the shape of the wood. You know, I don't know if you can see down that, it's still flat. So you don't want to do anything where you're stressing the wood too much.
So Jesse, what was your inspiration behind doing this?
You know, I'm on this forum called TDPRI, which is basically the Telecaster discussion page. And I've been on there for about 4 years. And I've learned so much stuff on there about wood finishing, soldering, wiring, doing modifications to these Telecaster style guitars. And a few years ago, a guy did a thread. And it's kind of funny because he never actually followed through, but he did a thread about these burned finishes and wanting to do one. And it got me thinking about it. And then someone else did one where they had actually shown what they did. They showed their technique. And I was like, I got really excited about it, but I just never got a chance to do it. These bodies I've actually had sitting in my house in the box for about 2 years because I bought them on sale. They were both seconds. This one here you can see has a chip in the neck pickup, the space between the neck pickup and the neck pocket. There was that, and there were some grooves on the back. It looked like it had been on the bottom of a wire shelf and just had a bunch of stuff stacked on it, so I had to sand those out on the back. You can't see it anymore. It's all smooth now, but they had parallel grooves running along here that were kind of unsightly. So I got these at a discount, and you know, they've been sitting around. I've been meaning to do this for a while, and I just haven't had time. So I'm on a break right now from school. Classes start a week from Monday, so I'm trying to get these knocked out and get a finish thrown on them and get them ready to go before that happens. I was going to try and experiment with shellac, but shellac's, the flakes are a little expensive, and I have a bunch of True Oil at home, so I've had really good luck with that on one build already and one neck refinish. So I'm probably going to finish these in True Oil also. Maybe just a couple of coats this time, not as thick as I did on my last build. So
let me ask you this, Jesse. Considering this is your second one, what would you consider your technique going forward on this one?
I think, you know, approaching this one with just what I learned on that one, I'm going to try and basically do the same thing. I'm going to watch my speed. I want to move slowly enough that it will actually get a little bit of burn on it, but not so slowly that I get, you know, dark spots. And one of the things I did a couple times on there, and it's easy to do because you see, oh, I missed a space, and your inclination is to back up, but you have to keep going, because if you back up, wherever you stop and reverse, you're going to have a really dark spot there.
So that's what you would suggest to your viewers. Go from one side to the other, never stop the torch on the body itself.
Yeah, it's almost like spray painting, you know, like you don't want to like be spray painting and stop and then move back, because then you're going to have extra paint there. So it's the same thing, it's the same principle with the torch. You know, you want to go steadily and evenly, keep your distance even, and go right off the edges. You know, if something needs to be touched back, you just come back in, you know. And if you overdo it a little bit, don't be like, oh my gosh, it's a little too dark there. You can always hit it with sandpaper and even it out, or you can come back and bring the rest of it up to that darkness. You know, most things are fixable. You know, the big thing you want to avoid is getting any one area too hot, because the heat will cause the wood to crack. Like I said, that one did a little bit. but sometimes it can cause it to crack really bad. And one caveat I would have, this is a solid pine body. Some of you guys might be trying this with a guitar that has like a maple cap. So, you know, most of your body thickness is another wood, and then you have a little cap of maple, and that's glued on top. Sometimes, especially depending on the kind of glues they use, if you do this technique on a body with a cap on top like that, you can heat it up and you can cause the top to start to concave or curl up or whatever, or the glues to come loose. So just be really careful of that, you know. The other thing, just watching these edges, because since you're always kind of going off of them, and because they're very thin there, that's like a little point, the wood comes to a little point, that's going to char more easily, so being careful of that. This neck joint here, where the edge of the neck pocket comes to, it's like a tiny little thin point there. You have to be really careful of that, not to catch that on fire or crack it or anything too badly. So I did pretty good on this one. So yeah, that's about it. This one has a real pretty grain pattern on the sides. So we're going to hit this and see how it comes out. I'll turn it around here so you can see the other side. All right. So you ready, Nate?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
The Bob Ross of burning guitars. Jesse, do you prefer this method over anything else, or is there something else that you would prefer over this, and this is just something you wanted to try for a while?
I don't have a specific preference. I've only done a couple of finishes in my day, so I'm really just trying. You can see there's some sap burning off there. I'm really just trying to experiment. The one guitar build I did do, my favorite part of the whole overall build was the finishing, the sanding and finishing process. So, if I were going to do anything to maybe try and make money at this, it would probably just be finishing and selling bodies.
That was going to be my next question. Once you're done with these, since you're building two, is one of them going to be up for sale?
That's going to really depend on how my finances turn out. It's possible.
Because I'm sure there's some people watching right now that would love to have something like this that is just maybe a little leery on doing it themselves.
Yeah, that could be. And you know, just a few years ago, I was that guy. I mean, I didn't want to mess with setups or mess with adjusting things too much on the guitar. I didn't want to mess with wiring. What if I mess it up? And you know, a lot of this stuff is not that hard. People treat it like it's some kind of a druid science or something like that you have to spend years in some kind of cloistered place figuring out how to do this, but it's really not that bad. So
now your method looks like you're going up and down with the grain, is that right?
I am. I'm trying to follow the grain on the tops. On the sides, just because of the limited amount of space that I have, I'm generally just kind of going across it here.
Okay.
Now I'm probably going to back off from that for a little while and let that cool because
looks like a little bit more sap out of this one than the last one.
Yeah, I think this was a little bit lighter piece of wood. They're both very lightweight. I need to turn this because the glare of the sun is messing with me a little bit here. The thing about it is you get doing this stuff and it's kind of fun, you know, you like start to realize that you can really get creative with this stuff. So now I'm going to be real careful here, this neck pocket. You can see even if I don't hit it directly, that little point wants to catch on fire when I'm in there. So be real mindful of that. I'm just trying to keep moving slowly. Just enough to hit it. I can always come back. I've got a wheel locked up somewhere here. And the thing is, it's always more satisfying when you do it yourself.
As with anything in life.
Yes, sir.
I think you get more joy out of doing it yourself versus just buying it and playing it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a conversation piece when you have people over or you go somewhere and you show it off. So Jesse, how many guitars have you built so far?
Well, it depends what you mean by built.
Well, obviously these you're building from the ground up.
Well, I've never built anything where I've taken raw wood and milled the lumber and installed frets and done all my own routing. I've always used, like the one build that I did do kind of from scratch was one of these kind of bodies that was prefabbed. It was pre-cut, had the pickups and control routes all done, and it just needed to be finished, assembled and set up, you know. And I did everything on that build except for cutting the nut at the top of the neck. I had that done. It's a little bit involved, but everything else I did, including the wiring and you know, the final fine-tuning of the setup, getting string heights adjusted and intonation and stuff like that. So
let's take a look at the grain pattern. How it highlights the knots in the wood.
Yeah, it came out real nice. There's a little spot in here I could touch a little more, but
it's all about character.
Yeah. There are certain finishing techniques that if you screw it up, then you kind of are screwed. But you know, especially with, I use all hand wipe finishes. I don't have the ability to spray. I don't have any special kind of tools. So like the True Oil, it comes in a little bottle. It's like, I don't know, $10 for a little bottle of it. And a bottle will last, the last one I put 30 coats on my body and 15 on my neck, and I still had some left over, and that was one bottle. You know, I'm not going to put near that many on this. The neck I just redid, I put I think 4 or 5 coats on. This is probably going to get about the same, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. So the wind is kind of playing havoc with us today. We're trying to...
This one's got some nice knotting in it too.
Yeah, this is a 2-piece pine body. You can see where it's book matched together. You can see the line there.
So is that something that we definitely want to stay away from heating up too much, since it's probably
I want to be
right
a little careful there. You know, I don't think I had too much of an issue on the front side. You can see a tiny bit of separation, but I was real careful to keep moving. So, you know, I'll just be mindful to not put the flame directly over that. You can see there's some fine cracking at the end, but I think there's even less cracking on this one than the other one.
I like it. Looks good. Looks real good. Kind of excited to see what the back's going to turn out as.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to hit next here. And we'll see how that goes. So...
Watching this is like watching it come alive.
Yeah.
It brings out so much character. It gives it that uniqueness, shall we say. And I'm sure after watching this video, if you have any questions, definitely post them. You know, Jesse would love to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, absolutely, I will. And if I can't, because, you know, I'm kind of new to this too, but if I can recommend some places you can go to get more information or some videos that you can look at. I mean, that's really all I did here is I went on YouTube and I just watched a couple of videos of how to do this. You know, it's not hard. And,
would you say it's more patience?
It's more patience, yeah. It's kind of finesse. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself the most, I don't know, the most poised kind of person, you know. I'm kind of a klutz, but, you know, I'm doing this. It's coming along here.
So what you're trying to say is anybody can do it with the right technique.
Yeah, yeah. And this is just a plain old torch that I got over at my local Home Depot. I paid about $30 for it. It came with the nozzle here, and then I bought these extra ones. They were about $4 a piece. So
kind of liking the way this has turned out so far. This looks really good. I like the lighter contrast into the darker contrast.
Yeah. And I'm just doing this here just to show the viewers. See, I just had the torch on this. I can touch this. You know, it's hot enough that if I leave my hand sitting on there, it's like touching the hot hood of a car after it's been sitting in the sun. That's about as hot as you want to get this.
And you always attribute that to keeping the torch moving.
Keeping it moving, yeah. You know, you don't want to, everybody whose videos I've seen on this technique, you don't want to try and get to your final result and then move, and get to your final result and then move, because you're just going to heat things up too much. It doesn't take long for this to catch on fire. You may have seen in one of these videos, you know, the wood flickered and started to flame up a little bit and then went out. So that's another reason just to keep it moving, because you don't want that kind of thing to happen. So
I love looking at the different kind of grain patterns that they have. That one's really cool around that knot.
That's one of the things I love about pine as a guitar body wood. For years it was kind of a bastard child of guitar woods because it was soft. Leo Fender used it on the first Telecasters back in the late 40s when he was doing his prototypes, and then he quickly went to ash and later alder. But pine has had a resurgence in the last few years because guys like Rick Kelly up in New York has been getting old, dried out pine that's, you know, 100 plus years old out of these old Bowery buildings. It's been sitting in roof rafters and just drying out for years, you know. And it was probably 100 years old or more when it was floated down the Hudson and put into those buildings, but the buildings themselves are 100 years old. So it's this really old wood, and what happens is all the saps and everything that are inside it kind of crystallize. So it becomes very, very lightweight and very resonant. The problem with pine, especially newer pine, is it's a soft wood and it dents easily. The older, more dried out stuff is a little more durable, but that's just something to keep in mind, and maybe something to think about when you're thinking about the types of finish to put on it. But yeah, it's great stuff to work with. I have 4 or 5 Telecasters, and they're all made of pine. One of them has a top made of ash, but the rest are all solid pine, and they're fantastic.
Are you planning on doing a video with a different kind of wood, maybe burning it?
If I get one eventually. I'm going to be on a shoestring budget for a couple of years while I'm in school, living on loans here. So unless I come into like just an irresistible killer deal on something, probably not in the near future. But yeah, I would love to do something with ash maybe one day. Ash is a cool wood. It has a very prominent kind of grain to it. And it's a great tone wood also, you know.
Well, let me ask you this. After doing these two right here, which turned out absolutely fantastic, Do you think this is your number one all favorite technique, or is there another one that you prefer over this one?
They both the two that I've done this, and I've just done straight true oil on a pine body, and they both have different elements of beauty to them. It's really just what you're looking for. The other one that I did, you can see videos of it on my channel here, but it came out this really nice honey color. It's beautiful, and you can still see the grain. It actually pops really nicely. This is just going to be more dramatic, and because of the nature of the technique, where you get some of these cracks, you can see there's a little bit of a split there actually, but it's not too bad. But because of the nature of this technique and just kind of the rustic look you get from it, this is going to be a different kind of a build, If I had my druthers, I don't have the money for it right now, but if I had my druthers, I'd probably get like aged nickel hardware for this to really kind of accentuate that kind of rustic look, that kind of Firecaster vibe, if you will. But I'm just, whichever one of these I end up putting together, I'm pretty much just going to use whatever I have on hand right now, because I'm poor. Maybe I should start a Patreon account on here, and you guys could help me out.
A GoFundMe.
Right. So
GoFundMe through college. So
I may hit this a little more and touch it up, but I think that pretty much wraps up our video. I don't want to use up too much time on that. So if you guys have any questions about this technique, if this is something that you'd like to try, or if you just have questions about building guitars and setting up guitars, I'll be happy to help you as much as I can. And if not, I can refer you to a whole community of people that can really connect you with their techniques and help you to be able to do this yourself. So thanks for watching. God bless.